This is Brother Tom Watkins, and I have some of the words the Lord has given me over the years, and some of the experiences I've had with Him that I want to share with you. And one of the things I think that is important to know is that we are in the end times. We have entered into the 7-year period of Daniel, and it's probably one of the most important words I think that we should know on the earth, what's going on and the time frame, and what's at stake. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I have been with the Lord over the years in very unusual ways. He's spoken to me, but probably the most dramatic thing that's ever happened to me happened in 2012. Up to date, I think there's more things coming, but in March of 2012, I received a series of dreams and visions and words from the Lord, and about going to a country that I'd never heard of before, a country called Eritrea. So I did. The Lord showed me when to go in these series of dreams. He told me when to go. And that was about 6 months later, after I had got, the original dreams. He told me that I would be an ambassador for him, and he also showed me the Taliban, that they would want to kill me, murder me, and he also spoke to me about the sign of Jonah appearing. And that had a dual meaning to it. So there's a very serious, very serious word from the Lord. And I was also told that I must go, And there was no, this is a command that was from Him that was so powerful that I trembled for weeks in terror, really. I mean, I was going to my death, and I was really pretty sure of it, that was what was coming. But I also, there was some hope in there that maybe not. I didn't know that. I thought I was going there to evangelize to this country. And so on the end of Ethiopia, and it was a 10-year-old country. It's ran by a dictator. It's about half Muslim or so, and the other half is Coptic. It was one of the first countries ever that was evangelized by the apostles, and so very early Christian country. And they are the people in that part of the world, the black people. They are Semitic black people. Who knows? I mean, very, very beautiful people, and they look like they have the Jewish blood, the aquiline noses, and they're just gorgeous women, beautiful. I mean, they're different, part of the black race. They're Semitic people, like Abraham, the Semitic tribes. And so anyway, one of the things the Lord spoke to me in this series of visions in the beginning was to go ahead and make make plans for September. He told me to go in September, and this was back in March. And I thought, well, okay, and I'll do that. One of the things that happened in the series of visions I had was this like a TV set came on in this one particular vision, and a talking head got on there, and he looked a little angelic, blonde hair, blue eyes guy. And he got on there and on the TV, and he said, look right at me. And he said, the sign of Jonah, of the prophet Jonah, is soon to appear. The sign of the prophet Jonah is soon to appear. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I didn't really get it, but I believed it. I thought it was a word from the Lord. And it was, but it was not like I thought. It was the shadow sign and the light sign of what the sign of the prophet Jonah is. So I went through a time of mourning before I went, and I did. I thought it was over for me. I made out my will, and really all the way to the airport, thinking I would die there. And but the Lord had it for me, so I went. I went ahead and went, and I put it off as far as I could to the end of the month, of September. And I thought, well, maybe maybe I can get out of this by pushing it up. But it was all in the perfect will of God. It was all sovereign. It was all something that He had planned. He was before me, behind me, to my left and my right. It was totally one of the most sovereign events, maybe the most sovereign event up to date in my life. And I've had a couple, but this is beyond the pale, what happened to me. And this is my testimony. So I I own a little home here in Southern Illinois, and I got my tickets together, borrowed some money, got my tickets together, and I arrived on Yom Kippur, September 26th, 2012, in Asmara, Eritrea. And as I said, it was all very sovereign. I arrived at this first hotel. I just, it was kind of shabby, and I got out of it, to go to another hotel. And at this hotel, I was aware of something going on there, very evil, very powerful. But I felt that's where I should be. And so the first night, September 26th, I didn't really know what was going on too much. I just was kind of jet lagged out, in Africa. And I noticed this pillar of fire out my windows on the second story. And I looked out on the balconies, and there was this pillar of fire. It was incredible. And never thought much about it. White phosphorus burning on nothing. And big, maybe 500 yards away. And it was just a huge thing. But it was consuming itself, and it was odd. There was no fuel to it. It was just burning bright, like white phosphorus. I've seen white phosphorus in Vietnam. Very bright white kind of fire. Odd. Anyway, so next morning, I went downstairs. They have a little restaurant down there, and it wasn't too long before two policemen, came up and started interrogating me, and they were wondering why I was there. There was no other Americans in the country. They hate Americans there, and I found out later this is a country that has 320 prisons underground, where mostly Christians are being persecuted. One of the most dangerous places on earth, and some people say the number one country, even above North Korea, where there's Christian persecution. Some people say that they have no free press. They have a dictator who's satanic. He's a satanic man. I believe he's probably a sorcerer. I don't know, but I wouldn't doubt it. And he's got a lot of Christians there underground, rotting, and that's his attitude. So these two agents of his visited me right next morning. I mean, it was 12 hours or so. They came and they got me downstairs and started interrogating me, wondering. And I was the only American in the country. Why are you here? What are you doing? And so I decided my best defense was the truth. And I told them, I said, well, because God called me here. And He spoke for me to come here, and I come here in His name, in the name of Jesus, and that's who I serve. And I'm waiting, for the Lord to show me what to do and speak, and that's who I am, and that's that. And it kind of blew them away. I mean, I could tell they were pretty rough guys, and they could speak English. One of them could better than the other, but finally, that was all I had to say to them, and they were finally. They got mellowed out a little bit. They were like real intense to begin with. And then they mellowed out, and they just kind of went, I didn't know what was going on. But I think that they were reporting back to the government there why, this American came there, and it's a dangerous place. A lot of people disappear there. A lot of journalists do. And, I found, I found out a lot later. I knew it was dangerous, but not as dangerous as I found out it to be. Well, the second, I was there the second night, the second day, and as I say, September 26, 2012, Yom Kippur. This is the day that the 7-year period of Daniel began. It's here now. And I found out later on that the Antichrist himself and the sorcerer, false prophet, the most powerful witch on the face of the earth, was in that particular hotel. And the Lord had sent me there as a witness to uncover them. And that's exactly what happened. And it was as though I was a puppet somewhat. It was like everything that I did and every move that I made was foreordained by the Lord and protected by Him. And so anyway, I'll go on with my story. That's the truth. And so I'm there, and I'm noticing, as I said, the false prophet, the sorcerer witch is what he is, and he's the most powerful guy that I've ever met in the satanic realm. I've met a few. I've met Satan. I've met other people once, but this one is in a human body, and he's a demon in the skin of a man. And he does have horns. He revealed himself to me with these horns on his head. I mean, it was glowing red and, intense. That was later on. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So I noticed that these teams, there was, it appeared to be all Mideastern men, that were there. And they would have these rallies out in the courtyard, maybe 100 people out there. I didn't know, what's this? It's 100 people. And I'm looking at every time, 3 nights, I saw these, these pillars of fire, and they were amazing. I just thought, I really didn't think anything about it. I didn't associate, that with the false prophet, who was, with the Antichrist. I didn't, I never put that together, but the Lord was showing me as I went along. And it was, really the most terrifying time of my life. I've never been so terrified. But yet, there was an aggressiveness with me. I never backed down. Right in the face of being butchered, or being attacked. And they couldn't touch me. This is the truth. But I didn't know that. It's like a divine joker, I love the Lord. But, he didn't let me know that I was not going to be touched, even though they wanted to. Bad. So that's my, that's what happened. So, by the third night, I noticed that these men were getting very aggressive toward me. And I just, I noticed that they were stalking me. Maybe, I don't know, 20. And so, one morning I just got up, and I was, involved in I would say discernment, knowing that this violence was that I'd seen before, that the Lord spoke of, that they were there and they were after me, and I knew it. So the way I combated it, it got very intense. I was a little worried, that I could put you, in my room or something. So one morning I got up and I was there for about 3 days, and I'd seen these pillars of fire every night, and well, it was awful, and I knew that they were after me. So I'm in this country. So I got up one morning and checked out. Just that quick, and it's just to get away. It's a town of about maybe 200,000, 150,000. Asmara, Eritrea. So I got a taxi and I went over picked out a hotel on the other side of town, maybe 4 or 5 miles away, obscure. And I thought maybe I'd be okay there and I could just go on. And, in the meantime, a few things happened. The Lord led me to some of the leaders there, and one of the leaders there, and I was able to minister a little bit. And it was a sovereign event. He was standing on the street corner, and I went over to him. The Lord showed me who he was. I didn't know exactly, but I gave him my testimony, and he was very interested. And we had lunch together. And he turned out to be of the oldest church in that country, and that he was part of the underground church that held meetings. I found out later that he was probably arrested and thrown in one of those prisons. So it just is awful. It's awful what's going on there. It's all over the world, but that place is it's Antichrist area, and that's why he came there. So anyway, I went to this other hotel, and I didn't really spend the night. I was only there about 2 hours, and all of a sudden I looked out the window, sideways. I looked out the back window, and I saw the same SUVs and the same men from the other hotel, talking frantically on a telephone. That this was they were there, and they were going to come up and get me, and that's what I knew. So the first thing that I did, and this was all, again, this is something the Lord was into totally. There's no reason they couldn't have got me or touched me, and I'll go into my story later. But that's what happened, and so I left all my luggage. I left everything there, went downstairs, and kind of stealthily, they were in the back, got out the front, walked a few blocks, got a taxi cab in this place, and I made it to the U.S. Embassy. And I thought, well, I'm in safety now. I would be fine. No, it had just begun. It had just begun. So this journey the Lord had brought me into to uncover the Antichrist and the false prophet. And really, this opens the door to the week of Daniel, the end times. The tribulation period has begun. Not the Great Tribulation, but I know when that is coming. So anyway, I went to the U.S. Embassy, and it was just odd. I mean, it had mostly been abandoned. There was a couple of people there that were Americans, but very demonic people. One was a woman, very promiscuous and satanic, and then there was a guy there that was just weird. I mean, spiritually unclean. And so I told him, I said, I need some help. I need to get out of here. That's that was my attitude. It wasn't, And they said, well, all right, we're gonna work it out. We believe you, and we're gonna get you out of here. And so they went back and with some bodyguards outside, and went up and got my luggage at the hotel, and they arranged a flight for me that night out of the country. And so I thought, well, that's good. I'm alive, and that's no, I wasn't over. And so I went to the airport that night, and again I saw before I went, it was a night flight about midnight or something, and late, and there was the pillars of fire again, and I could see from the new hotel that I waited. I went to a new hotel, checked in, and stayed there until the flight went out at about midnight. And I looked out the window and I saw the pillars of fire again. And it was like, I never put it together. But that was. The Bible says that the Antichrist and the false prophet, of course, they're together. But it also has an obscure statement that says the false prophet, he calls down fire in the presence, that he can do these miracles in the presence of the Antichrist. And that's Osama bin Laden, who I found out later. I met him eye to eye. And I met the false prophet eye to eye. And I've seen his spiritual body too. Those six things. So anyway, I'm at the airport there in Eritrea. And I notice this tall, 6'6" fellow that clean shaven now, very, very thin. I mean, as thin as a rail. This guy looked like a stick man. And then I didn't put it together because I wasn't eye to eye with him. I got there later. That's who he was. It was Osama bin Laden. And he was dressed in a gray flannel Mahdi outfit. It was old looking, like it had been worn. Very, very common. It came down to his, ankles and this robe, kind of a robe. And he had an entourage of about, I'm going to say 15 or 20 men with him. I don't know, some were older. But the Lord had arranged it that I would be on the same flight as him and the false prophet that I had met earlier back at the first hotel and that I was trying to get away from. But the Lord didn't want me to get away from him. The Lord wanted me to expose them and also prophesy to them. And I did. And so anyway, I thought in a way I got out of Eritrea that night. But I didn't actually put it together to see who these people were. I was just along for the ride, kind of. I mean, it was just like, the Lord held on to me and just drew me, and into exactly where I wanted to be, and what I wanted to say. I didn't get it, but I was just almost like a talking donkey or a traveling donkey, carried by the hand of the Lord. And this whole thing, it was so sovereign. But it was, it was at my expense in a way, in the sense that the terror of having people wanting to slaughter you, and you not knowing that they can't, but that's what happened. So I'm on the flight, and I'm going into Cairo, Egypt, and then I've got to wait 12 hours there, and then I'm going to South Africa. And I thought, well, when I went, I told you, I didn't know what I went for. I thought I was going to evangelize, which I've done before, several times in India and China and Israel and so on. And I just thought, well, the Lord wants me here to witness. And so I had to go to Cairo to go to South Africa. I thought, well, it'd be good to get out of here. This is not good. And so it was all arranged. And they began to reveal themselves to me on that flight into Cairo. But it was terrifying. The spiritual presence of this evil. And so I ended up knowing that they were there and they were after me. I was on the same plane as them. So anyway, I got into Cairo, and they have a little Egyptian area that we went into from Africa, but it wasn't the international part of the airport. It was a separate part of the airport. And as soon as I came in, there were about 50 people in on this, and the first thing they said to me, "Oh, Mr. Watkins," I showed them my passport. "Yeah, we got a room for you out here. We've got a nice hotel right down here. You can spend your 12 hours there. We paid for everything." And Well, I knew what was coming, and I wasn't about to get out of there. I said, I'm going to stay here. Thank you. So I'm in this area where there's some people there, some people there from, that were innocent people. And it it was incredible. Well, to make a long story short, the loudspeakers came on, and the man, they gave him access to the loudspeakers right in front of me, and they started calling my name and cursing me. This is what I'm pretty calm about it, really. And then they stole my tickets to South Africa. They were gone. They wouldn't